Hello, thank you for joining me for our subjects here that we'll be talking about life alignment values. And we have 6 topics that we're going to be discussing, talking about. And just before we start on this first topic called opportunity, I kind of see, I envision this as a building, like a 6th floor building. And this first subject that we're talking about will be our ground floor, or the place where we enter. And as we move through the topics and we start to move up through this building, which is in fact intentional. I'm not trying to give you disconnected topics that stand alone by themselves. My intention here is to give you 6 topics, 6 discussions that are all connected to one another, and we're building layer upon layer from the ground floor up to the top floor, where everything comes. We're starting off with a very general overview, a very general beginning, and we're working towards a very specific goal and objective in these messages, these topics that we're presenting to you. So I want you to keep that in mind as we progress, as we move up, as we build layer upon layer. We're going someplace. We're not just presenting disconnected topics to you. Well, the first topic that I want to discuss with you right now is the topic of opportunity. And this subject here is our ground floor. And I'm going to start with a personal story here, and why I'm going where I'm going here. The personal story starts when I was about 8 or 9 years old, and I was still, of course, living at home with my family and my parents. And our next door neighbor was a police officer. He was a great guy. He was a good man. He was really my first experience with police. In fact, growing up, my experience with police when I was very young was always very positive. And didn't, when you're 8 or 9, 10 years old, you don't really notice many of the problems, issues, the different things that are going on around you. But he was our neighbor, and he was very good to us. He would. I remember one time in particular, I was riding my bike back then in the 70s. We had our bicycles. We had the big handlebars on them, and then we had the banana seats on them. And me and all of my friends wanted to ride our bikes together, but we also wanted to do jumps. We made a ramp, and all of us were taking turns taking our bikes up the ramp and doing jumps as far as we could, and we had set the ramp up not in the street but in the yard, so everybody was taking their turns. When it was my turn, I was pedaling my bike. I was going as fast as I could. I hit the ramp, the bicycle took off the ramp up over the yard, and I watched my front wheel fall off of the forks on my bike and hit the ground. And then, of course, right after that, I came down. No front wheel. The forks of my bike went down straight into the ground, and of course I flipped. I stopped immediately because the forks were in the ground. I flipped over the bike. In the process of flipping over the bike, I took the handlebars with me. I put all of my force into that, and the gooseneck that holds the handlebars in place, it snapped, it broke. And I fell head over heels into the yard there, stunned. I didn't have any idea what had just happened at the time. And this police officer Jerry, he had seen the whole thing. He came running over there to make sure that I was okay. And that's when we discovered that the bicycle was broken. He took my bike. He had a welding machine, a brazing machine actually. He took it into the garage. He said, I can't weld it, but I can do this. I can braze it back together. And he took some brass brazing or brass soldering iron that he had, and he bent everything back into place, put it, got it all back in shape again, and he welded or brazed that brass across the gooseneck to fix the gooseneck to hold my handlebars in place. And I always, that brass scar, because you could, all the rest of the time that I owned that bike, you could see that brass scar across my gooseneck on my handlebars. And I was always proud of that. To me, for me, it was a badge of honor because I had survived my accident, and I loved seeing that brass across the gooseneck. But that was the kind of man, that was the kind of man that Police Officer Jerry was, and he was always watching out for all of the neighbors, all of the kids, everybody that was around when he wasn't at work, when he wasn't doing his job, and when he was at home, he was always working on the vehicles and keeping an eye on things in the neighborhood. There was one time I remember very distinctly, Dad had purchased a brand new car at the time, and it was a big blue Chevy, a very bright blue color, very distinctive. And he was, we had all gone to church on Sunday. We were on our way home, and as we went through a intersection, all of a sudden the car alarm went off, the sirens were blaring, the lights were turning, and the police car had come up behind my dad's car to pull him over. And then the officer got out, he walked up to the car, he tapped on the window, and Dad rolled down the window, and he looked out, and it was Officer Jerry, and he poked his head in the car. He said, "Hello, I just wanted to say hi to the family. I saw you going by." Well, that was just the kind of guy he was. He was a good guy. He was a kind person. He was a great neighbor and a good friend. And the last thing I want to share with you is that I remember very, very, very clearly, there was an accident, and it involved Officer Jerry, and he had been down underneath his car. He had it all jacked up. He was working on something underneath the car, and he needed one of his tools. He went to reach for his tools while he was up underneath of the car, and he bumped the jack, and the car came down and was set down on his chest. So I mean, it fell about maybe a foot or so onto his chest. Well, of course, he couldn't breathe. He inability to breathe. His face was turning purple and blue, and his wife was screaming. She shot out of the house. She was trying to find somebody in the neighborhood, one of the houses, one of the neighbors' men, to come and help her husband, who was trapped underneath the car. I went over there. Again, I was only 8 or 9 years old. I ran over there to see what was happening, and that's when I discovered that he was all purple and blue. And but finally, the men in the neighborhood all got together, and they got him out of there. They jacked the car up. They got him out of there. He went to the hospital. But the thing is, it changed him. The lack of oxygen to his brain. He was never the same man. He couldn't even go back to being an officer again. You never know, weird things like that can happen. But he was a good man, and that's what I'm trying to convey to you. My first experience with police was with this man who was our neighbor, and I was only 8 or 9 years old. But to this day, I can remember very clearly all of those memories of Officer Jerry, and because of him, I've always had a positive view of the police, because he was always very good to all of us. And what I want to say, the reason I share all these stories with you, is because God positions people with opportunities where they can do the most good. God positions everybody who is willing, everybody who will have an ear and see the opportunities that God presents to them in life. God presents opportunities to everybody for life, for success, for jobs, for whatever it is. And God positions people. He puts them there. He puts them in the position they're at on purpose and for a reason. And I want to share with you from Galatians chapter 5 and verse 13. For you were called to freedom, brethren. Only do not turn your freedom into an opportunity for the flesh, but through love serve one another. So you have an opportunity to serve your flesh, or you can use it as an opportunity to serve one another. That's what this verse is saying. If you clearly understand what it's saying here, opportunities can be either good or bad based on your decision. What do you decide to do with an opportunity? It can be good, it can be bad, or you can be indifferent to it. You can decide that this opportunity isn't for you and completely pass it by, only to discover that, wow, I really should have taken advantage of that. We do that. Sometimes we make mistakes like that. And opportunity, and I just want to define this word opportunity for us so we clearly understand what it means here. It is an appropriate or favorable time or occasion. Second, it can be defined as a situation or a condition favorable to attain a goal. So you find yourself in a situation or circumstance that works out, it's favorable to attain a goal that you have in mind or something that you're working towards. And finally, it is a good position, chance, or prospect as for advancement or success. Opportunity is what you make of it. And you can't, it doesn't matter how talented you are or how skilled you are. It doesn't matter how much ability you have. What matters is that you have the opportunity to use those things. And like I said, opportunity, I envision it as the ground floor. You can be full of potential to accomplish things in life, but you have to have an opportunity to begin to use that potential. It doesn't matter how much potential you have. It doesn't matter how much talent you have. You could be the most talented individual on the face of the entire planet, but you still have to have an opportunity to start putting that talent to work. Until you have an opportunity to start focusing that energy, to start putting yourself into that, then it won't matter how much talent you have. You're not going to accomplish anything. You're not going to see any achievement in life. Everybody will say, oh, that person is so talented, or that person has so much skill or ability. And yet, if they don't take advantage of an opportunity to begin to advance, to achieve, and to go someplace in life, all that talent is just wasted. And we see that happen in people's life. A lot of talented people out there who are going nowhere with their talent. They might be a local celebrity or a family celebrity, but as far as achieving anything, accomplishing anything, they're going nowhere. Because either they have not had the correct opportunity, or they have passed the opportunities that have been presented to them, for whatever may be the reason. Well, you have an opportunity. You have, each and every one of you that are listening to this have entered into a profession, and that profession is your opportunity to take all of your talents, skills, abilities, all of those sets of things that are in operation in your life, and begin to focus them towards your goals, towards achieving and accomplishing something that is meaningful for your life and meaningful for somebody else's life. So this verse of scripture that we were just reading from Galatians chapter 5 verse 13 says, once again, let me read it to you. For you were called to freedom, brethren. Only do not turn your freedom into an opportunity to the flesh, but through love serve one another. Well, what do you do with opportunity? First, you use your opportunities well. use them well. When you see an opportunity presented before you, of course, you have to decide if it's the right opportunity. But many times there's nothing to decide. We see something in front of us and something has to be done. And once we step in there, it is our opportunity. And you can take a bad situation and turn it into something good, or you can take a good situation and turn it into something bad even. But you have to learn how to see the opportunity and how to use it well. Don't let it pass you. Don't have regrets over an opportunity presented and wasted. An opportunity presented to you and you didn't use it well. You didn't take advantage of it properly. Use your opportunities well. See the opportunity, evaluate the opportunity, and see how you can use that opportunity to accomplish something good. Number two is how you use your opportunities can do one of two things. It can leave a long-lasting impression, like Officer Jerry made upon me almost 50 years ago. He left a long-lasting impression upon my life that I have carried with me everywhere I go. And because of that good impression of a good man, a kind man, I've carried that impression of a police officer in a positive way my whole life. And I've had positive experiences. That's not to say that, you haven't been pulled over, or you haven't had, situations like driving down the road and your tab was run out, or you turned in the wrong place, or you went down a one-way road and the police pulled you over to tell you. But I have learned, there's two ways to address those situations. You can be respectful, or you can lack respect. And if you lack respect, then of course you're going to deal with the consequences of it. But I've found every time that I've been respectful to the police, I've been treated with respect in return. Just like the police here in Bangor. I have no issues with the police. I don't have a problem with them. That I treat them with respect, and I've never been treated with disrespect by any of them, any of you. And so we have a good relationship. And the second way is the second thing that happens when you use your opportunities is that as that opportunity allows you that moment into somebody's life. It gives you access into their life. Access that you might not have any other way. That moment becomes a teachable moment. It's a moment when you can impart something, share something that's valuable, something that's important to that individual or that person or that circumstance that you've been injected into through this opportunity. And so it gives you that moment, that teachable moment, to mold a life, to mold a mind, how people perceive and see and understand the police, to touch a heart forever changed by how you use that opportunity. The third thing is that opportunities can be used in a selfish way. You don't want to use opportunities in a selfish way or with only your self-interest as a motivation. But use those opportunities. If you use an opportunity as an opportunity for yourself, to gratify yourself, to take care of whatever your personal needs are, it always will cut everything else and everybody else out of your life. You're not using an opportunity well when it is self-centered and only about you. You're to use those opportunities through love to serve one another. That's the whole point of an opportunity, is to serve one another. And that brings me to the fourth point that I want to share with you, is that service does not make you lower or weaker. In no way does it make you lower or weaker. In fact, I like to use this illustration. If you go into the restaurant and you and your wife or your girlfriend or whoever it is that you're with, a friend, you go into a restaurant, you sit down, and you have an expectation that somebody's going to come by and they're going to wait on you. And until that person waits on you, nothing's going to happen. If they don't come and say hello to you, if they don't come and present a menu to you, if they don't ask you what it is that you need while you're there, you need a cup of water, you need a glass of water, you need a cup of coffee, you need something to eat. That waiter or waitress is the person who's actually in control. And they're the ones that are waiting upon you. That doesn't put them in a subservient role. It doesn't make them lower, it doesn't make them weaker. Now, if they don't serve you, you can get up and walk out and say, I'm never going back to that restaurant again. They don't know how to wait on their customers. But as long as that person comes and begins to serve you, they're in control of the entire circumstance. They're in control of everything that's happening in that relationship, even though they're the one waiting on you. But they're the one that's asking you the questions. They're the one that's presenting to you, what is it that you would like to have, what's available, what's not available, and they're the ones taking care of you. That doesn't make them a weaker person. And the same thing is true when we have opportunities to serve. Being in a position to serve people or help people through love, not just help them just because we're helping them, but help them from a heart of love, from a position or a place of responsibility in our lives where I care about what happens to you, I care what's going on in this circumstance, and I am here to help you, to serve you, and help you through this situation, through this opportunity. And it places you literally in control. When I was in sales, I used to be in sales. One of my jobs years ago was selling cars, and we were always told, and I don't know, maybe for the police you're taught the same thing or not, but we were always taught that the person who was asking the questions was the person who was in control. Well, when a customer came on the lot to look at cars, it was my job to be the one to discover what it is that they needed. And as long as I was the one asking the questions and they had to respond to me, then I could lead them to what they needed. But if they were the ones that were doing all the talking and asking questions, I was the one being led around all the time. So, not a position of service is not a position of weakness. It is a position that places you in control of the opportunity. Well, thank you for your time as we've discussed this ground floor event here. Your talents mean nothing until you enter the ground floor of opportunity and begin to focus your life. So opportunity, use it well. Use your opportunities to mold a life, change a life, create a long-lasting impression. Serve through love, and be in control through service. God bless you.